Hello, everyone, and welcome back to In the Business, the podcast for young entrepreneurs. Every week, we sit down with founders and innovators who are making their mark in their own way. Today, we're chatting with Ashley Johnson, the founder of Hyja. We talk about why having a purpose truly matters and the benefits that come when your business embraces one, and how Ashley built Hyja from the ground up, plus his advice for anyone looking to do the same. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our conversation with Ashley.
Can you start by telling us why a business needs a purpose?
If you're starting out with a business, the main thing that needs to happen is you need to keep motivated. You need to have the motivation to continue. So you need to have a purpose. You need to have a why. You can't just start a business and say, oh yeah, I'm going to go into this field, which is completely like something different that you've never done before, and it gets hard. And if you don't have the motivation, then yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So yeah.
How does your company go from, because you help businesses kind of find purpose, don't you? So
I do, yeah.
how do you move from, say, having that good intention to actually having action behind the purpose?
So I'll tell you a little bit about my company just so that it sort of makes sense. But my company essentially partners businesses with charities for long-term strategic partnerships in order to help them with their CSR goals. And the way in which we do it is that we sit down with the company and we ask them, what's your values? What's your mission? What type of areas are you interested in? And then we go and find charities that match those sort of areas and come up with a long-term plan. And that's not just corporate sponsorship for an event, that's employee engagement, so volunteer hours for the employees so that they can go and share their skills with the charity, or surplus redistribution. So if they've got, for example, if it's a supermarket and they've got a surplus of food, we can distribute that to food banks. Or if they're a stationery company and they've got a ton of stationery, we can redistribute that to literacy charities that are based around literacy. So it's the whole package, not just the one-off tick box CSR that some companies have done.
Okay. Can you tell us a bit about, for someone who doesn't know, what it actually is CSR? What's it stand for?
Well,
What's it
CSR
mean?
stands for Corporate Social Responsibility, and it's becoming more and more important, especially with companies that are trying to gain public tenders, trying to get public tenders. It's one of the big criteria now. What are you doing in terms of CSR, and what's your social impact? What are you doing to help the community and those around you? So it's becoming more and more important. A lot of people now, a lot of companies, they don't have someone in place that's especially in the small company arena, they don't really have a person there dedicated to CSR. It's usually someone doing that on the side. They don't know exactly where they want to go with it. They just know that they need to fulfill a checkbox, so they'll end up going with whatever they think is easiest. Whereas what I do is I try and jump in, so I offer fractional CSR services. So I go into the business and I create the strategy and I help them execute the strategy.
Okay. Well, a lot of the companies that you come across, do you find that they actually don't have, you think they'd all have a purpose from day one? Do you actually find a lot of them don't have that mission?
I think the companies themselves have purpose. A lot of them do anyway, not all of them, but a lot of them do. And you'll see that in their goals and their missions, that where they want to go in 5-10 years time. But the purpose for wanting to help the charities and the communities that they're part of, for some of them, it's just about ticking a box. They've got no real purpose or mission behind who they pick. Usually in that case as well, they go for a big name because they believe that it will give them the biggest, reputation increase, return on investment, that sort of thing. But the trouble with that is that if you're a small business in Norwich and you give, I know, 30 grand to a big charity like shelter or Cancer Research UK, because they've got loads of different projects. That 30 grand is going to be very thin when it gets to where it
Yeah.
needs to go, because there's lots of overheads and then all of the various different projects that money's distributed to. If they partner with a charity in Norwich that does a similar thing, so let's take Shelter, for example, so a homeless charity, and you gave them 30 grand, they're a much smaller charity, they're hyper-focused in the Norwich area, meaning that you'll be able to see an impact for that 30 grand.
Okay.
It's much easier to see the impact when it's hyper-focused in a local location than it is nationwide.
Okay, interesting. So should a business be thinking about CSR from day one when they launch, or is it something you kind of incorporate later on as you become more and more successful?
Well, obviously, the company needs to be making a profit. That's the first thing. So I wouldn't day one set up my company with Companies House and then go, oh, what's my CSR policy going to be? Because you can't really do a lot at those early stages unless you've got a lot of funding behind you. So my suggestion would be that as soon as the company starts turning a profit, they can then start to think about CSR and how they can make an impact to the local community that they operate in.
What stage are the companies you typically work with? What are they, like big businesses, small businesses? What are their sort of turnover?
They tend to be small businesses. We have one company that we're working with that has a turnover of 6 million, but the rest are, 1 million or maybe under six figures turnover. So at the moment, it's small companies that we work with.
Sure.
When it comes to the purpose, how can you make sure in the company the purpose isn't just sort of written on the wall and it's something that's felt by everyone in the company?
Well, that's exactly why the package that I offer is so wide. We want to get the employees engaged. We want them to take part in it, whether that's volunteer days, skill sharing. A really good example is, say a small charity has an inexperienced person doing the books and there's an accountancy that wants to do a partnership. They could allow their employees volunteer hours to then go into the charity and help them do their books, for example. So skill sharing, resource sharing, because when employees are part of that corporate social responsibility strategy, they feel more engaged and they know where. So like if a company just gives money away to charity, there's a PR release or whatever, the employees don't feel part of that. They don't often understand why the company's doing that, and often jump to the conclusion that it's a tax saving, initiative.
Yeah.
If I give so much away, then my tax bill's going to go down. But by involving the employees, they get to be involved in the whole process of the charity selection, the volunteering that they can do, the skill sharing. It makes them feel like they've got a purpose to it as well, and that helps with employee retention because employees that are engaged tend to stick around.
Okay. You mentioned tax break there. Do you think a lot of these big companies are doing it for the tax break? What's your sort of opinion on that?
I mean, I'm sure some of them are. I wouldn't say that everybody's doing it, but I do know that if you give a certain amount of money to charity, it reduces your tax bill, not by the amount that you've given, but by a considerable amount if you're a big company and you give a large chunk away. And companies that do that as well, they tend to have a foundation that they've created, which is the charity, and then they move the money from their profit making to their foundation charity. But I wouldn't say it's all of them, and I know a lot of big companies that do have a big heart. So
yeah, sure, interesting. Very nuanced answer. Yeah.
When it comes to having a clear purpose, if you had to sum it up in sort of 2 lines, how would you sum that up for yourself and your company?
So my company's purpose is to uplift communities. So by that, what I mean is to bring people out of poverty, to help homelessness, to do work in the NHS, which is part of the reason why my purpose formed in the first place. So one thing that I personally do to show what we stand for, our values, is that I go up to local hospitals, including the Norfolk and Norwich, which I'm sure you're familiar with, where your location is, and I give talks to the parents on the NICU ward. I bring up donations. Morrison's have also provided donations, and we go up there and we have a day of it, and we sort of uplift that community of people that are in that situation and make them feel better about themselves. So that's one of the things that I do, but it's not the only thing I do. I'm part of a community called Help Bank. I don't know whether you've heard. Yeah.
Heard of that,
Oh, is that the Simon Squibbs one?
Yeah.
It is the Simon Squibb one. Yeah. I've been part of that community now since the beginning of the year. And when I go down to the Box Park events, which are in the Wembley area, I always withdraw some money, buy a copy of the book, and I listen to the Dreamers. And I also, any that sparked my interest, I then would go over. I'd pick one each event and give them the book, the money. And get them on their way. So I'm all about helping as well, helping entrepreneurs to make it as well.
Can we briefly touch on Help Bank? Because that might be quite useful for young entrepreneurs listening. What does it actually do? So do business owners like yourself come together and listen to pitches? How does it actually work?
No, so it's a community of entrepreneurs helping other entrepreneurs. We want everyone to succeed. We know that not everyone will, but we do want everyone to succeed. We help each other. So, like, for example, I've got a lot of connections. So if someone's looking for someone in a certain area, then I can jump in and go, yeah, I know a guy that can do that. Here you can get the stuff. If there's someone just starting out and they want tips on how to get some funding to start, there'll be people in the community that can help with that. The Help Bank also has what's called the starter kit, which helps you from idea to launch. So they take you through the process of registering the company, having an accountancy software. They give you discounts, huge discounts on a couple of products which you can use. And you also get mentorship session with someone who will take you through the process. So it's really, really good, and I'd recommend it to anyone that's starting out because it is a really good place to start.
Yeah, we should probably take a look into it ourselves.
It does sound amazing, to be fair.
It is really good. I can only recommend. But it's not about Help Bank. It's this interview.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Just quickly, how many pitches would you say you've listened to?
What at Help Bank, you mean?
Yeah.
So I've seen probably about 50 pitches since
50.
because it's not just about reading the pictures. Obviously, it's about connecting with the entrepreneur themselves. But about 50.
What would you say is the most interesting one you've heard?
Oh, the most interesting one I've heard is the off switch. Let me see if I can find the card for you. So this here.
Okay.
Guy, he was at the NEC in Birmingham, where I was, and I was talking to him, and he's tackling mental health in terms of usage of social media and your phone and stuff. And for a lot of people, they will have these screen time apps, but the screen time apps, in a lot of cases, you can disable them on the phone directly. So
I never follow mine.
If you're addicted to social media, it's not going to really stop you. Yeah. And I don't think anything can, in terms of, if you really, really want to view social media, you'll do it. But he came up with the off switch, which is basically an NFC card that you keep in your kitchen or something, well away from your bedroom. Before you go to bed at night, you tap your phone on it. It disables all your social media. You go upstairs to bed. The only way to reactivate it is you have to come down in the middle of the night, often freezing, to tap it. So it's sort of like an extra layer of, it won't stop 100% of people, but I'm sure there's a lot of us that will go, do you know what? I'm so comfy underneath my duvet. I'm not going to go downstairs.
That's a
Right.
great idea.
What's the point? I'm going to go
Yeah.
to sleep. So I think that's a really, really, really good idea that
Yeah,
needs
definitely.
attention. So
Yeah. Right, back to your work. So
yeah.
have you noticed that when a company incorporates CSR, that it actually sort of leads to more growth, maybe in a profit sense, maybe in motivation? What sort of changes
of
do you
course.
see?
It can lead to a lot of things. So a lot of the times, if you're partnering with a charity, there's a press release that goes out about the partnership. If you do corporate sponsorship for the events, your logo will be everywhere. There's often people from BBC News, ITV, newspapers like The Sun and that, all there. You're going to get exposure that way. But also, more importantly, not just for the exposure to the outside world and people knowing about you and the good stuff that you're doing, but also by having employees engaged, that increases the morale of the employees as well, and it creates retention, and it creates happy employees that have a purpose, know what they're doing, have a sense of fulfillment as well. We're doing something for the common good, as I'd say. So I think that there's lots of potential for it to be, not just a winner in terms of marketing and return on investment, but also for the employee retention, because to retain employees costs far less than to actually have to rehire. I can't quote the study facts or figures, but there was a study, and sort of the rough outcome of it was that to give an employee motivation and or pay rise and or whatever to keep them, costs 3 times less than actually paying for a recruitment agency going through rounds of interviews to find another candidate who often needs to be trained as well.
Yeah.
So employee retainment
is a big thing.
Is essential for continuity inside a business.
So there's lots of knock-on positive effects, other than the initial positive effect of donating to charity, of course. So yeah, amazing.
Yeah, there is.
Well, tell us a bit about actually setting up this business. You mentioned a minute ago about how you got the idea.
Yeah.
Can you just develop on that? When did it first come to you?
So the idea came to me after a voluntary redundancy. So I was working for a big tech firm that worked with some of the biggest mobile network providers inside this country, but also a couple in America and in Europe as well. And I was getting very stressed. I'd done 24 years of software development. Suppose you can say that I was an old-time classic developer. I was getting stressed by the amount of responsibility, because as you go up the ranks in any in any line of job or career, there comes a point where there's too much pressure and responsibility for you to continue. You hit like a limit. Yeah. And I hit that limit, and then they were saying that they needed to cut half their workforce, and that we would essentially be pit together. So we would have to explain why we were better than the next person, and that didn't sit right with me anyway, due to my nature. So I decided to take the voluntary redundancy. Then I was sitting there thinking, well, what do? Do I try and get another job in the same area, which would have been, I guess, the safest bet, or do I go it alone? And if I go it alone, what would I want to do? And that's where my backstory comes in, because in 2016, my daughter was born premature at 25 weeks, spent 11 weeks in the neonatal intensive care unit. My son was born with a heart condition and has had 2 open heart surgeries with the Great Ormond Street. Now, why has that influenced the way that I've gone? Well, it's influenced it because I got to see firsthand the impact that small charities have on people's everyday life. So I got to find out about charities like the Family Fund that give grants to parents to keep for white goods or for travel expenses to go in and out of hospital. The Sick Children's Trust, who provided my wife with accommodation down in London so that someone could be there for my son. We found out about a wonderful charity actually called Help Appeal, and that charity is responsible for the fact that a lot of hospitals have helipads. They actually help plan and get the permission and build the helipads for the hospitals. Right. So without them, you have a crash on the motorway or whatever,
Yeah.
the helicopter would have nowhere to land. And as you all know as well, the helicopters that come are all charities as well. We've got
Yeah,
the
of
East
course.
Anglian Air Ambulance.
Yeah.
So it's really important to support these charities because one day you may need them.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, well, let's go down that line. How can I help as many charities as possible? And so I decided that I was going to become a consultant for corporate social responsibility, that I was going to personally vet the charities to make sure that they're not, because some charities aren't always what they seem on the outside. So I vet them. And that I would come in and be the fractional CSR partner for businesses. And yeah, it seems to have worked. We're coming up to a year trading. So,
Great.
and I'm yet to see any like major challenges to continue.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you talk to us about the name a little bit? It's quite a unique name. And
Hyja, yeah.
yeah, how's it come
how
about?
do
And
you
is
say
there
it,
like a
first of all?
meaning behind it?
It's Hyja.
Hyja.
Yeah, so a bit like Hyja.
Yeah.
So the reason behind it is I wanted to have a unique name because a lot of the obvious names are always taken,
Yeah.
and you end up pulling like a lot of the time you end up putting like your surname and then the business sort of area, and I was like, I ain't going to do that. I want something that makes people go, what's this about then? So as I was thinking about it, my son for the first 2 years of his life would scream Hyja at the stairgate downstairs if he ever wanted me. He never called me Papa, he called me Hyja. So that's the first bit. That's what got the actual Hyja name. And then I thought, well, if I just go Hiya, that's going to be a bit weird, right? It needs to be a bit more unique than that. So it just so happens that my wife is German, and I looked for words that sounded like Hyja when put together. So you've got Hai, which is shark in German, and you've got
All right.
Jahr, which is year in German. So I put them together. So Hyja, that's how we got it. And I can't really show you because I don't have like the logo to pull up here on screen. But if you go to the website, if you have a look between the I and the J, there's 2 lines going across the two. That inspiration came from a picture of when my daughter and my son were lying on the sofa hugging each other. It was before my son had to go down to hospital for his first open heart, I think. And so the I represents my son and the J represents my daughter, and they're hugging. And that's where the logo came together.
Amazing. I always like a name and a logo of meaning.
It's always important to have a backstory for
Yeah.
these things. So
there we go.
you brought
got
it
it.
up.
Got it
If
up.
you scroll down and go to the About page, you'll see a bigger version. So if you click on the About, so just
there we go.
under
There we go.
there. So you can see
amazing.
that
I like that
the
a
two
lot.
That's
children,
great. I love that.
and you notice that the dots, the circles are slightly inward.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
you, thought,
it's
you, thought of it all.
literally-
You thought of it all. Yeah.
Yes, I have.
That's
Amazing.
great, that.
If you're not watching the podcast, go and watch it. Have a look at it.
Yeah,
Because
go have a look.
if you're just listening, you won't be able to properly see it. But that's cool. Thought of everything.
Yeah, I did.
So after thinking of all of that, what was the very, very first step you actually took to make it real?
So the first step was registering the company, registered it so I was made redundant at the end of November. I registered the company on the 9th of December 2024. And then I instantly enrolled onto a business course by SEL Learning. It's like a government-backed business course. Did 2 weeks of that, then did a week of digital marketing, and then from there just started reaching out to all of the companies that I'd worked with in the past and said, look, I'm doing this. Do you want to be some of my first, clients? And, a few said yes, a few said no, but they formed the basis of the company as it is today. And I'm so grateful for them taking that leap of faith. And also, as I say, that was around about the time I got the book from Simon, the What's Your Dream?
There you go.
I
I haven't read that
I
one
found out about the wonderful Help Bank community, and You know, they've helped me, and I've helped them. And
Yeah.
yeah.
What was the very first organization or charity that you partnered with? What were they called?
So the first organisation that I partnered with was called Aspire. It's a charity in Lowestoft, and it basically helps with educational needs of children and young adults. So I partnered with them. I donated a lot of stationery to them. There's a company in Galston that reached out to me. I don't know whether I can mention their name on the podcast, but
Yeah.
it's a stationery brand that deals with stationery to schools. They do like laminators, they do pens, different types of handwriting pens, etc. And they came to me and they said, "Oh, look, see what you're doing with the surplus redistribution. We've got a ton of old products that we need to get rid of. So they'll either go to landfill or whatever, because some of them were past the shelf life or whatever, you know, like the stock
Yeah.
life that you
Yeah.
can physically sell them. And others were just old versions of a rebranded product. So, and they said, do you know anybody that can that could do with them? I ended up distributing to 4 charities in total. So Aspire was like the first one because I'd already had some dealings with them. And then it was the Literacy Pirates, that was in London, Hackney. Then the Ashley School. I don't know whether you know about the Ashley School, but
No.
it's a school for SEND children. Basically, it's like a really, really top school that are specialised in children with learning difficulties. And the third one was, I can't remember the name. It begins with A. I'm going to be so killed for this, but I haven't done anything else with them. That's why I haven't remembered them. But there
Yeah.
were 4 charities in total that got
Amazing.
the donation. So we managed to save a ton of stuff from going into landfill, and we managed to kit out the stationery cupboard for
Yeah.
4 charities.
Yeah. Great.
You know, charities don't care if the pen's only got a life of 6 months now, whereas it would usually be years because of the shelf life.
Yeah.
They just care about saving money so that they can put their capital into what matters, which is helping others. So yeah, and it was all well received, and I got some. Oh, Hamlet was
Hamlet.
one.
There you go.
Yeah, Hamlet. That's in Norwich.
All right. Okay.
They sent me some pictures as
So
well.
quite a few quite early on.
Yeah, so quite
Yeah.
early on, quite a few. Obviously, working with the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital charity, working with the James Paget charity as well. So those are 2 big ones that we help as well.
Great.
I guess, as you said before, it's a win-win really for both parties.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So for the company, they get exposure in the media potentially. They get employee engagement. Instead of going to their products going to landfill, if charities could do with them, we're saving
Goes
them
to them.
from going to
Yeah.
landfill, which is obviously better for the environment. So
Yeah.
they're also helping them with their environmental policies as well, not
Great,
sending
yeah.
things.
Well, just to start to wrap up the conversation, you did mention that you haven't really faced too many challenges, but there are always challenges running a business. What have you kind of faced? Is it maybe like skepticism? What challenges have you faced?
So yeah, I faced a lot of skepticism, mainly from family, not so
really?
much
Yeah.
from friends. Basically, it's all with good intentions, isn't it? With family, it's like they
Well,
don't
they're so
want you
honest.
to.
Yeah.
Well, they don't want you to fail, and they always think of the worst case scenario,
Yeah.
right? You know, like, oh, did you know, most businesses go bust in the first year and all of this sort of stuff that
Yeah.
they say, like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you don't want to be safe? But I've learned actually, for even being employed, that you're not that safe being employed neither.
Yeah.
I mean, your employer could turn around from one minute to the next and say, in a month you haven't got a job anymore, or the business has failed, on you go, you know.
That's
the
a really
only
interesting point.
difference
Yeah.
the only difference is that if your business fails, you've only got you as the thing to reflect on. Whereas if you're reliant on someone else and they fail, you have someone to blame for your ultimate the knock-on effects, right? I've got no money, oh, it's because that company, and then you start thinking it was spending bad. Or you sort of have this mentality where people have this mentality, where if there's someone else involved, it's easy to pass the blame in your eyes.
Yeah.
If you're running a company and it fails, if I decided that I wasn't going to wake up in the morning and I was just going to sleep all day and suddenly all my money's run out, it's my fault, isn't it? So I think that that's also really good as well, because you're in control. And then in the future, if you do make a success of it, it'll also enable you to reclaim your time as well.
Yeah.
So you can start doing the things you love rather than the things you
That's a really interesting point. We always like to ask guests on the podcast this, but if you were to go back to when you first started, or say when you were 20 years old, what would you wish you'd known or done differently?
So I would have done a lot more research on, all of the different things that you have to do to start a company. When I started this company, I just thought, okay, company's house registration, you're done, you're good to go. No, there's HMRC, corporate tax, because we wanted to pay ourselves in a PAYE and employee and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more. It's a lot more complicated than you think. And one of the best things I did, but I did it too late, which I would have done earlier as well, is got an accountant, because like understanding all of the tax rules around everything. Also, so if you're exempt from tax, how you do the books, if you're VAT, not exempt from tax, but VAT. And if you're not, there's different ways you have to do your accounting. And I didn't know that. So there was a lot of work that I had to catch up on because I had left it 6 months in. Yeah. So
that's good to know. Yeah.
Do it properly.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one final question. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. First of all, it's been really interesting to talk to you. What kind of legacy do you want Hyja to leave?
So I want Hyja to be a company that's known for helping bridge the gap between companies and charities in a more substantial way than is happening today. I want my company to help make it a relationship between a charity and a company, not just a transaction, right? That they partner off, and we deal with this charity, and the percentage of our profits go into this charity.
Ashley, it's been great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you too.
Thanks for coming on the show.
No problem.
I hope you enjoyed listening to another episode of In the Business. I think the key takeaway is doing good is good for business, which Scott Russell, one of our first episodes, also said. And the knock-on effects, there's not just that initial positive impact of donated charity. It knocks on, it builds company culture, it increases motivation, and then maybe profit further down the line. Tell me, Harrison, what did you take away from that?
Yeah, I think one of the main things is you need to use the resources out there, and Help Bank is obviously one of the resources you can use. And, rather than trying to do things yourself, if you use one of these resources, it will save you a lot of time and sort of kickstart you into it. So you can actually start doing whatever the business is, rather than working out how to register or how to, do this or that.
Yeah. And I also think that, I also think that it was also interesting to hear,
sorry.
Building on that, using your resources, Ashley, when he started his company, he did a few courses, which I thought was quite an interesting idea, because not many people have had on.
No one's mentioned courses, I don't think.
Yeah, no one has particularly mentioned courses, and it's investing in yourself. You learn a skill. I need to do a few more courses, but like you learn that digital marketing skill, or you learn how to actually be in the business and running it.
I would say though, like the thing is with courses, you're going to learn more actually doing whatever the thing is. But I mean, there's a balance.
But it gives you the confidence to launch, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there's the balance between diving into it and just getting started, and also doing the courses and helping you sort of accelerate that diving into. So you might learn some things which are mistakes that you won't make when you actually go into it.
And one final takeaway, I think, was that even if you're a business that's just started, you don't have the money to give to charity, you can have a purpose that will really help your business have a direction, and later on when you start earning money, do some real good in the world. If you enjoyed another episode of In the Business, if you haven't already, please remember to like, leave a comment, subscribe, find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find us, follow us.
It'd be great to hear your feedback.
It'd be great to hear your feedback. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.